please listen to the disclaimer at the end of this episode. Suburban Folk is teaming up with Lashbinder in the month of February for a free giveaway to one of our listeners. Lashbinder is a false lash application system. The method is the fastest system in the world to apply lashes and is beloved by moms, dancers, cheerleaders, beauty schools, makeup artists, and lash lovers everywhere. For every product sold, Lashbinder donates one kit to a chemotherapy patient who has lost her lashes. Visit lashbinder.com to learn more. To enter the giveaway, head over to suburbanfolk.com and enter your information into the email subscription list. We will randomly select one winner and announce them on the last show in February, featuring a special cancer survivor guest. Health, travel, finance, parenting, and home improvement. This is the Suburban Folk Podcast.
$250 a month into my child's $529 from the month that they start kindergarten. I should be able to pay for 80% of my child's college.
Because I don't trust that most people will eat their vegetables. So usually our kind of standard is 3 servings of vegetables per meal.
You take something like a 2x6 and you cut it with a circular saw. That's like a superpower.
Those middle school years are not as fun, but at that age, they're still willing to talk to you.
Welcome to the Suburban Folk Podcast. I'm your host, Greg. Today's episode is about the gym. What makes a gym successful? What can deter people from coming to use the facilities? How you can make the most out of your local gym? And how to work with a personal trainer. My guest is Dr. Darian Parker. Dr. Parker earned his PhD in sports education leadership with an emphasis in behavior modification from the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. He earned his master's and bachelor's degrees from James Madison University in kinesiology with concentrations in exercise leadership, athletic administration, and advanced coaching. He is also a certified personal trainer through the National Strength and Conditioning Association. Dr. Parker has received such prestigious accolades such as the NAACP Arthur Ashe Award, the Marilyn Crawford Scholarship Award, and the Virginia Association for Health, Physical Education, Recreation, and Dance Graduate Student Award. He also has been featured on Fox 5 News Las Vegas and the Healthline Today Show. Dr. Parker has also served as an advisory board member for the Nevada chapter of National Strength and Conditioning Association. He has been in the fitness and wellness business for 19 years. Throughout the course of his career, he has served several roles in the fitness and wellness industry. In the academic setting, Dr. Parker served as the Director of Education and Program Coordinator for both the Professional Fitness Institute and Pinnacle Career College. After working in the academic environment, he worked for WTS International as the General Manager for Club Ridges, an upscale private fitness club located within the gates of the exclusive Ridges community in Las Vegas. In addition to this, he served as the National Director of Fitness for WTS, assisting in oversight and support of WTS's national portfolio. Dr. Parker continues to be the private personal trainer for several leaders of prominent businesses in the United States. His new venture as the co-principal of Epic Leisure Management provides an opportunity for him to create, implement, and foster the highest levels of people-centered culture while also providing the most innovative and significant technologies and services to his clients. Thanks, Darian, so much for joining the show today. I'm excited to get into some specifics about overall health as well as designing and maintaining a fitness facility. So can you start us off by giving some more about your background and how you came into founding Epic Leisure Management?
Yeah. First off, thank you for having me on the show. I really appreciate it, Greg. For me, fitness has been kind of a reoccurring theme in my life, or exercise. I grew up in a very athletic family. My father played college football. My brother played college football, and I was a track and field athlete in college. So it was just kind of like exercise had been a very large part of growing up, recreation, playing a lot of sports, and probably like a lot of people who get into fitness, it's like, well, I like to exercise. I love being active. But for me, it was more just, I realized how important the relationship building aspect of fitness could be. It's just a great platform for creating meaningful relationships. So I spent a good portion of my early years in the exercise industry in helping to certify personal trainers to become trainers through vocational schools and university system, while also being a personal trainer myself. And then in the course of that journey, I came across a company called WTS International, which became a 12-year journey for me, from being a personal trainer to becoming the general manager of a very high-end luxury club in Las Vegas for over a decade, and then becoming the national director of fitness for the company. So it's based in 33 countries. So I had this kind of whirlwind experience from, training to becoming a corporate executive over that time. And then I ended up leaving the company, not because it was bad. It was, on the contrary, it was wonderful. It was a great time. I just wanted to get out on top and do something else. And that's literally what it was. I said, I like what I'm doing. I love the people I'm around. I would just like to do a version of this on a much smaller level, a more boutique level, and then also do something more remotely related to my personal training services. And so that is what Epic Leisure Management came out of, which was working for a third-party management company for all those years and then deciding to build a smaller boutique-based version of that on the West Coast.
Does that play into the community aspect that you were talking about? Maybe the larger the operation, the less tight-knit community you get?
Yeah, I think that, my business partner and I, once we came together and really went full force with it, we made a decision that we did not want to be a big company, which sounds counterintuitive to a lot of people. I think they're like, let's grow, let's get bigger, let's make more revenue. Our thing was like, we don't really need that much money. Like, let's just be comfortable. Let's be ambitious, but let's cap ourselves. Like, if somebody tries to offer us more work than our cap, we're just going to turn it down. And it doesn't matter how much money it is. We're just going to enjoy what we have and what we could service. So we felt like, at least I know I felt like, in a very large company that's in many, many different countries all over the world, it's very difficult to have an effective practice. And I think it's hard for people. They see money and they equate money with success, but that's not always the case. You could be huge and make a lot of money and still not be very good, in a sense. And so I thought that our company did a very good job, but I think we did a poor job of connecting the dots in that community building, the relationships, because we're just too big. It was way too big. It's impossible to service 33 countries and not have enough staffing for that. So we wanted to have a different approach. And
I imagine having that kind of an overview, you didn't get much time to be in the front lines to see what was effective, or even, I imagine something that's the most rewarding in the health industry, in fitness industry, is seeing people's gains and seeing them hit their goals. So I'm wondering if you had a large enough purview, you sort of don't get to see those individual stories.
I was lucky. I got to see that because even though I became a corporate executive, I was allowed to continue to run the club that I ran at the same time. And I continued to personal train throughout the entire time, just like I do now. So I was a trainer, I was the GM of a club, and I was the national director of fitness. So I was able to have like this multi-tiered perspective of it all.
Yeah, so a little bit of everything. And I imagine flexibility was key, or at least planning so that you can be as flexible to manage all of those things makes sense. And I have to ask, what is the main differences between like a private upscale gym and a run-of-the-mill Gold's gym that, the general population's going to?
I would say they're not even the same jobs. They feel like they're in different professions almost. I think people get that mistake they go, oh, these are personal trainer jobs, or these are group exercise jobs. And some of the mechanics are the same, but the business is very different. And a Gold's gym per se, that's a for-profit business. The bottom line is the bottom line. You need to make money, quarterly earnings, the whole deal. It's a commercial facility. Anything like your Gold's gym, your Lifetime Fitness, 24-hour fitness, whatever it may be, those are big commercial entities, and it's about selling, completely about selling, hitting quotas, those things. Whereas in the private luxury-based facilities like the one I was in, which was just for people who lived in the community that I was in, it's an HOA. You're dealing with the homeowners association. You're dealing with people who live in the community. So, in a gym, regular gym, commercial, you have memberships. You can, revoke people's memberships, things of that nature, blacklist them. When they live in the community, you cannot do that. They own the club, essentially, the residents. So it's a much more customer service oriented job, especially as a personal trainer. It can be much more politically charged job because of that. But I think there's much more security in that environment because the people in those type of communities, they're multimillionaires, extremely wealthy people. You're part of their team. And as long as, you're there and you're providing the attention and the knowledge, the expertise, it's pretty much a long-term gig. There's a tremendous amount of security in it, which is what I liked about it, is you can form these very long-term relationships and not super have to worry about, I need to have 50, 60 clients. I need to be selling nutritional supplements and all that stuff. It's nothing like that,
Is there also like an ongoing maintenance, for lack of a better word? Because I guess I think of the gyms that are sponsored by an HOA or part of, I don't know, like a luxury condo community or something like that. The equipment, of course, is not being used and in some cases abused as much as in the commercial gyms that, everybody can join. So is the follow-up similar, or is it sort of like you get it set up, make those connections, and then move on to another community?
No, it's the goal is long-term continuation of the service. I mean, the goal is to be there as long as possible, which is very different in the fitness profession. A lot of the, your larger commercial gyms, the turnover is tremendous. And this goes back to even think of a place like an Equinox. It's very successful on the surface, and you see it out in news articles, and Equinox has its own hotel and stuff. But the undercover story is that the turnover is tremendously high, and the work environment is less than ideal from a lot of people working in the environment because it's a sales job. It's completely a sales job. And whereas in the private residential community, especially, there are some elements of selling, but it's primarily a customer service job. And part of your customer service is the clients want to know that you're going to be there on the long-term basis to work with them over many, many years. So it's companionship, it's relationship building, it's long-term building of genuine connections.
So bringing that to your current business of Epic Leisure Management, when I was researching the page, it sounds like one of the things that you provide is consulting services for each step of the way for people that are building their gym. Am I reading that right, or is there some other kind of way to look at that?
Yeah, no, you're reading it right. It's one step in the process. And I think that's one of the things I like to do when I do podcasts or do media, is because the service that we provide is not common to a lot of people. If you go in a gym, you will see the people who work for that gym. They're hired by that gym. They're employees of that system. Whereas we are not that. I mean, we hire and employ people. However, it doesn't say our name on the building. It doesn't say our name inside the building or the amenity. We essentially are contracted by a developer, whether that be a hotel developer, residential developer, corporate campus, hotel owners, to run their business for them. So we are kind of the undercover entity for the amenity with that. So it's a very different situation. So we do that, but on the other end, your consulting aspect of it is we do everything from the idea of the facility or the amenity. So the design, the concept, the space program. We do the pro forma, which is the business planning, 5-year business plan, feasibility studies, looking at occupancy rates for hotels and how many treatment rooms there should be, based off of that, the demographics of the community, all the way consulting through the pre-opening of the amenity. And then, as I mentioned, the turnkey daily operation of the facility or amenity.
Do you have any concrete ways of measuring what makes a successful fitness center versus a not successful center, whether that's you've come in after somebody's already put something together and you're needing to be a second set of eyes, or even after you've built something? Are there certain measures that you look at to say, okay, this fits the need for the community that we were, building the center for?
Yeah, I think, it's definitely two different things. I think when you start from the beginning, like currently working on a project that just broke ground with a developer, the metrics for that are going to be interesting because it's basically we're building this relationship over many years before the club even opens. And so for them, it's delivering on the goods that we're providing, whether it's doing getting the right equipment for the facility, speccing the equipment, providing demographic reports, things, just providing that information, having a solid relationship before the club opens is already a successful business. After that, it's really about one of the biggest measures is, does the club get used, especially in your luxury condos, your high-end residential amenities. Usage is one of the biggest metrics because you may have this amazingly beautiful club that nobody uses, which is always the case, especially when it's unstaffed. When a club is unstaffed, it's rarely used, the club. When a club is staffed, such as when we staff it at a club, then the rate of usage goes much higher, especially when it's done very well. So the usage is probably the biggest indicator, along with the revenue, which is merely just a symbol, primarily in HOAs, which is a symbol or value proposition of that people are like the facility and the staffing, so they're purchasing services there. But in your HOA-based communities, it's really it's a not-for-profit, generally speaking, unless it's a membership where you get a percentage of the membership. So essentially, the club is taking a loss, and the developer knows that. They build that into the community, understanding that we're just trying to cut down on the loss for that by creating more revenue. But really, the goal is keep the residents happy, provide programs and services that get them in the door, so there's value for the facility that was built.
I can vouch for at least nobody using a facility. A vacation we had last year, we rented a condo, and it was a giant facility that nobody was using at all. And I mean, this was a massive condo complex. I mean,
Wow.
right on the beach, and it was great for me because I already wanted to use it anyway. But
Right.
that's why I'm curious. So I wonder what it is about that one versus maybe others that do get more use. So you mentioned staffing, and does staffing include not only somebody there to, I don't know, check you in, check you out, make sure you have towels, water,
Right.
whatever other things, and make sure the equipment is good. Does that also include like personal trainer?
Yeah, I think the biggest part of it initially is, let me back up a little bit. The biggest mistake, many of these condos, residential communities, hotels, things, the biggest mistake they make is unstaffing it in terms of the director of a facility. They'll often staff a front desk person to provide many of the things you just mentioned, but there will be no leadership. There will be nobody driving the actual programming and services. So often what you get, which is this weird conundrum now in fitness and wellness, condos, hotels, private residential communities now all know they have to build beautiful monuments to health and wellness. So they spend all this great money, capital, in building these fantastic facilities, and then they forget that there should be people in it. There should be staffing in it. And the reason they do that is because they don't want the payroll. Or they think, well, build it, and they think it's Field of Dreams, and people will just come. If I build it, they will come. It never happens that way. And so our job is often to provide evidence and convince the developer. It's like, hey, you're building a 60,000 square foot club in a condominium community. You're not going to staff that? That place will be garbage within 2 hours. The minute you open it, will be dirty. There'll be stuff all over the floor. There'd be maintenance nightmares and issues, and you may hire front desk staffing, but that person's not going to care about your club that way. It's a minor job for them. They don't care that much. So as you experienced, you went in a place that was empty. That is very common. And these beautiful complexes near the beach or, wonderful forest areas. It's just the developers. They said, we've spent the money on making it beautiful, and we're going to try to save money by just not having it staffed. And it's a huge mistake, and they know it. They always know it when we talk to them. They're always like, yeah, we should at least have a director. Like, nobody just shows up to a gym. It's one of the activities that people hate the most to do. It's not comfortable for them. So you have to make them feel like it's a community,
I wonder for the people that are self-motivated enough to go to the gym, especially again, if you're going to more affluent areas, you're also having to consider people that are just buying their own equipment and creating their own home gym. How does that play into the overall consideration for what you set up?
Good question. When I started working in the luxury fitness industry, that was definitely something that we would talk to residents about. And many of them would tell us, we built this beautiful home gym, and some of them were bigger than the ones, the community facility that we had. We're in a 9,000 square foot facility, and some of them had ones bigger than that in their homes. It's ridiculous. But they never used them. They always felt they never used them. It's a constant theme. They would come to the club, and they came to the club because there was staffing there. There was somebody to talk to them. There was engagement. And often what I found in these, especially very high-end communities, is that people are very lonely. And you're living in a house that's 13,000 square feet, and it's just you and your significant other. It's very lonely. And so they come to the club to get the socialization. That's the secret sauce, is connection, being with other people. And we try to tell developers, that's how your club's going to become successful. I understand the payroll aspect of it, and it's one of your highest costs of operating, maybe the highest, but you're going to keep people extremely happy when it's well done. And that club's going to get used like crazy.
Is there any consideration for these setups for like group classes? Because I know that's one of the things at least the club that I go to that also has very much that sense of community. It gives you a time that you're going to see the same faces come together, sort of what you're getting into as far as the type of workout. But yeah. I don't know if you would have critical mass to actually make something like that work at these types of facilities. Yeah,
they're very popular. They're just as popular as they would be at a larger club. It's just that you have to reframe the usage for that. So, when you're very large commercial gyms, you're getting, in some cases, hundreds of people in a class or 50, 60 people. In these environments, you're looking at kind of your 8 to 12 people is really good, which sounds funny coming from that number. But it creates an actually more intimate group exercise environment, a very much like everybody really gets to know each other. Those are considered very successful classes in that range of people. So we have a full-on group exercise program with a lot of classes. It's just you have to reshape your mindset of how many people that means.
Well, it makes me think of Peloton or Beachbody or these companies like that all offer their online forums, again, to create that sense of community that you're talking about. But then I think they also want people to have the shared experience. So hopefully they're holding each other accountable for maintaining a workout schedule, tracking your gains, all of those types of things. So it seems like they're trying to do that. Those companies that, are more in that home fitness space, to substitute for not being face-to-face in some way. Do you imagine that is kind of why they're doing that, for that engagement?
Yeah, I think that it's just technology and fitness are probably some of the biggest benefits of this digital age we're in. I think it makes me think of, I'm 41. It makes me think of remembering like workout videos back in the 80s, and how, those were very popular at one time and then it faded. But the idea, I think, was there. The idea was planted then. And then we kind of went through this age where that kind of fizzled out. And then you had kind of a rebirth of it with kind of your Taibo, things of that nature. Gosh, I'm losing my mind. I'm thinking of this stuff that's in my mind right now, like P20 or whatever, P90X, Beach Body. That stuff started coming into play. Hip hop abs, all these things, and all of a sudden, now it's like, okay, Peloton, Mirror, Tonal, and you see the commercials out there. They're pretty prevalent now about showing that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And in the end, almost like supplementing for face-to-face, like you said, with the P90X or the hip hop abs and Insanity, I think was the same guy. It's terrible that I remember all these things.
Insanity, yeah. But, Sean T. That's the guy.
But even those, I think they tried to have local groups that you could get together with to really emphasize the community. So maybe transitioning from that point and to somebody that is new to the gym or just exercise, or maybe has gotten out of exercise, what other barriers do you find, or excuses, if we're being frank?
Yeah.
And then how do you tell people to get over the hump and commit to a specific exercise regimen?
I think this is one of these central concepts to becoming successful in an exercise approach. And in my time, I've learned a few things that I think are very effective with training people and having kind of the initial talk with people. And really, it comes down to the concept of friction. You have to create as little friction as possible for people to be consistent for that. And that's one of the reasons to kind of pull in what we just talked about, your Peloton, Mirror, Tonal, or any of your live online training based services, things of that nature, is it creates a less friction. If you take away the drive to a gym, it creates less friction. We know that when a gym is 2 miles away versus 5 miles away, there's a significant difference in people using a gym. It's a staggering percentage in the difference, because you're giving people more time if something's closer to them. The closer you bring it to them, the less friction they have. They can walk to the gym, or if it's just a mile or two away, it's much easier than if it's 5 to 10 miles away for that. The other thing is creating less friction with time. A lot of trainers and places, they'll go, oh, let's do an hour of exercise. For a lot of people, that is extremely daunting, and it's actually really unnecessary. You don't have to work out that long. Physiologically, and to gain chronic adaptations, you do not need to work out that long. You need to adjust the intensity of your workout if it's going to be shorter. But giving people a 30-minute workout versus an hour teaches people time management. It creates less friction. They go, I could do 30 minutes. An hour? People question that. And often what happens, and I know any trainers that listen to this, often what happens when you do hours with people, they often show up 5 to 10 minutes late or 15 minutes late. And they're okay with getting a 45-minute workout, and they'll often sabotage themselves by doing that. But they're not okay with a 25-minute workout or a 20-minute workout. So they'll be on time for 30 minutes and often late for an hour with that. So there's all these like psychological games you're playing in a sense with people. The other thing is, like, let's say they're working with a personal trainer, is I tend to try to overschedule my clients. I say, hey, instead of 3 sessions, schedule 4, because there's a likelihood that something's going to come up each week and you'll need to cancel one of those sessions. But if you cancel, at least you have 3. But if you try to do just 1 session a week and you cancel, all of a sudden you've missed 2 weeks for that. So my biggest advice is you need to create as many levels of less friction as possible so that a person can't give themselves ways out of the situation. And in a sense, you're having to burn the boats on the island and give yourself no way of getting out of it.
How much of the excuses, I'll call them excuses, do you think are made up versus real? Because like you said, time, and that makes complete sense. And what I'm thinking of when you're saying the gym being closer versus farther, it's almost like, that gives the ability for an excuse. Might they still have the time to get further? Probably, I'd imagine, in most cases, if it's a matter of getting up a little bit earlier or whatever it happens to be. For myself, for example, I run quite a bit, and my joke is I do everything I can to run outside because I need to start, and before I know it, I'm a mile down the road, and the only way I'm getting back home is at least that I run a mile, or, however far I've gone back. Let's say compared to a treadmill, that stop button is right there the whole time, and sort of staring me in the face. So do you think that those hurdles are mostly made up, or do people, again, I think of mostly time management, that they are valid sort of in today's day and age?
Wow, that's interesting. Good question. I've definitely thought about this maybe in the depths of my mind and not verbalized this completely, but I have no problem telling the truth, my truth, and being open-minded about it. I do think there are a lot of people who make things up. I think maybe it's real to them, but if you really sat down and pressed them on it, they don't want to do it. If somebody cancels on something, there are valid reasons to cancel or not go to the gym, but often it's I'm tired, or I was working later than I should. And then I just, I provide examples when people tell me things. I'm like, listen, my brother is a full-time hip hop artist. That's what he does for a living. He has 2 sons that he takes care of by himself, and he doesn't get done with all of that until 11 o'clock at night. And he goes to the gym at 11 every other day. What's your excuse? You get home at 4. 5. Like, the time is there. That there's 169 hours or so in a week. The time is available. You just have to stop giving yourself these ways out all the time. You have to burn the boats. That's all it is. You just have to figure out ways to keep yourself from letting yourself out of it. And often that's why people turn to personal trainers, because it's the sense of letting someone else down, the accountability. Most of it is just accountability related.
Yeah, I agree with that. Now, is there also a challenge for a personal trainer of getting somebody to fly on their own, so to speak? Meaning, when you have a client, is it just assumed that they will always need a personal trainer to stay motivated and be held accountable? Or is there certain milestones that would say, okay, you've got your regimen down. Maybe we're meeting twice a week. Now we'll go to once a week. Now we'll go to, whatever the frequency happens to be. And you seem to be self-motivated enough now that you can do it on your own.
Another good question. I think, Greg, you got some good stuff going on here, man. I got to tell you, you're pumping some major stuff here. Because this is the stuff I think as trainers, like, we don't talk to each other about as much. I mean, I would talk to my staff about things like this because I was interested in it, but as a large scale, not as much. I would say, like, in my personal experience, I've never dropped somebody back in frequency because they don't want that. I mean, they might say to me, I have a good feel for what we're doing. I could probably do this on my own, but I don't want to. Like, because once you reach a certain point with training people that it becomes not just a training relationship, it becomes a friendship. And so all of a sudden, you don't become like less of friends over time. You keep like having, and in my case, people want more over time. Because most of my clients, my current clients, are fairly wealthy. So the money is never the issue. Most of the time people cut back is because of money. It has nothing to do with their desire of like, oh, I could do this on my own. And that's also kind of dangerous as well, because good training is a constant progression over time. So it's not like you did so well, you've graduated, you now become this level of Zen master, you know all the moves. You'll never know all the things, because there's always a progression beyond the next progression and the next progression to continue to get better. I have a guy that I've been training for 13 years, and it's a lifelong training relationship. He said that to me, and he's not the only one. And, for me, it's constantly progressing the workouts over that long of time so that they're still challenging. But even him, when he trains on his own, he goes, I kind of stop here and there. I don't really do, the intensity is not as great. And I think that's the big worry too, is that as soon as you stop having that training relationship, the biggest thing, and a lot of trainers would tell you, the biggest difference between my working with you and you working with yourself is intensity. Tempo is very different by yourself than it is with somebody else, So I haven't experienced people dropping back unless it was a monetary issue, which I haven't experienced much because of the population I'm working with. But maybe somebody else has had that instance. I'm not sure.
And maybe a related question, like you mentioned the goals, and I'm definitely with you that there is certainly enough ways to change what you're looking to do from a fitness regimen that I can't imagine you just hit a pinnacle and say, okay, I'm just going to, even if you hit that, probably to maintain it would be so daunting that
it's too difficult to do it once you've become extremely fit, it's harder than becoming fit. Mm-hmm. Becoming, in all the aspects of it, mobility, stability, muscular strength, endurance, the whole thing. It's because you have now got to a point where you have residual from being fit. I mean, you could take more time off and you still continue to have a high level of fitness, but all of a sudden the exercises have become extremely complex. The progressions have become complex. The intensity is very high most of the time. And to emulate that on your own would be very difficult to do. Very few people can do that.
Do you find that the clients tend to come up with what their goals should be, whether that's they've hit one and then, they're ready to set their sights on something else, or even the initial goal? How much is it you presenting for them, or them having something in mind that they dictate, where they want to go?
It's never my goal. It's always their goal, for sure, our goals. And what I have found in doing this for a long time is that the goals become very secondary over time. I just think once you reach a certain level of commitment with somebody, especially in training, those goals kind of start falling away. They kind of start withering, because at some point it's just the goal is just have a quality workout every time, a high functioning, high intensity workout, and show up regularly. The other things become extremely secondary. I mean, I would say the majority of people I work with, if you were to ask them what are their goals, they would probably be just to keep doing what I'm doing. They're keep showing up regularly, keep working hard, have this relationship. I think one of the biggest mistakes people make in exercise is trying to exercise for weight loss. And that's a gigantic portion of the population. It maybe initially it's warranted, but it should not be your long-term goal. In exercise is weight loss. It should just be feeling the best version of yourself, and the other things will come together as you stay consistent. And sleeping and nutrition, and exercise, you put all those things together, you will experience tremendous benefit from that.
It seems in the more recent news, when talking about the standard American diet, which we know is not great, and almost like there's an inverse relationship between the health food industry and the fitness industry, in that, maybe the fitness industry doesn't want to talk as much about the dieting, because the suggestion is it has more to do with people's weight gain than just not working out enough. It sounds like you'd probably agree.
Well, I think over my time, I've learned some very key aspects of this. I think they're fairly universal, but one, scientifically, you would have to exercise an inordinate amount to make a large difference in weight loss from exercise. You would really have to spend 450 plus minutes a week at least to make a gigantic portion of weight loss related to exercise. Most people can't do that. When I've had clients in the past and they'll say, I want to exercise 5 days a week, I'm like, no way. That's a friction point. You're creating more friction for yourself to be unsuccessful. Now, I know there's some trainers who may listen to this and go, are you kidding me? I would love to work with somebody 5 days a week. The money, and it's not about that. It's about providing an entry point for them to be successful. Start with a couple of days a week. Know that that's not going to be a significant contributor to weight loss, but that there's other things they're going to need to do in order to contribute to that. Exercise is a great assistive device for weight loss, but nutrition is the biggest element for weight loss. It's the biggest most effective, easiest way to lose weight is through better nutritional habits for that. So I can't say that exercise can't contribute to it. I just think that most people can't contribute the time necessary for exercise to make it a large portion of their weight loss aspects. And it's not safe. When a client first starts, want to do 5 days a week or something, they're going to be extremely sore. They're going to have a lot of discomfort. They're not going to be able to come back and train properly. They need recovery in between. So it's almost impossible to have them work that much to contribute to that in the initial stages. So I always recommend say, hey, listen, the nutrition element's going to be a large part of your weight loss goals. You have to accept that, and that I'm not your weight loss guru.
I would also think that combining both exercise as well as proper nutrition would also keep somebody motivated. Again, emphasis that the way you look is not the be all end all for why you're staying fit, but hey, it helps, especially when you're first getting started. And clearly, if you're able to commit to some sort of a better nutrition regimen along with the exercise that you're starting to take up, to your point, you're not over exercising, which would go back to the friction points that you're talking about, that you just don't want to come back afterwards. Yeah. But oh, by the way, you're seeing extra gains already from the beginning, which hopefully that would contribute to the motivations of continuing with your fitness regimen.
What's interesting, better eating practices and things that, I'm not a registered dietitian, so I'm not going to provide any specifics on it, but I know many generalities from, having my doctorate in exercise and, sports education. It's really more about how things make you feel. I think people don't listen to their bodies. I had a guy on my podcast, Gary Stotler. He lost 200 pounds. He was 400 pounds, went to 200, and all by just actually listening to his body and seeing if he was actually hungry. Because a lot of people just mindlessly eat. They're not actually hungry. Most of the time, you're not that hungry. But you just eat because society tells you to eat breakfast, eat lunch, eat dinner. That's not true. I mean, you should just eat when you're actually hungry. The signals of your body tell you are hungry, no matter what time that may be. It may be 10 o'clock in the morning. It may be 6 in the morning, whatever it is. Learning to say, am I actually hungry? And then how does this food make me feel after I eat it? And once you start doing that, then nutrition becomes more of a feeling. It becomes more of how does this make me feel? When am I hungry? I noticed I didn't say anything about carbs and fats and all this stuff, or this is good or these are bad. That's a terrible approach to nutrition. It's more about, okay, how does it make me feel? Am I actually hungry? Some techniques for, moderation of what you're eating. Stop talking about cheat meals. That's one of the dumbest things people say out there. The connotation of cheating is like something that you shouldn't do. So why would you do it? You know what I mean? Like, it's a really bad word in a sense of it creates a poor sense of what it means for that. And maybe say, I'm going to indulge myself a little bit, but cheating, like that has a very bad connotation, and words are important to us and how we receive them.
What I have found, which is similar to what you're talking about of just reading how your body is reacting when you eat, is when I am doing what I'm supposed to be doing as far as what I eat, and like you said, not mindlessly eating, then if I do have, just use the term cheat day, or, go and have something that I don't usually have, like fast food or something else, if I haven't been eating it on a regular basis, it makes me feel worse.
You feel horrible, don't you?
Yeah.
You do.
Yeah. And another thing more recently, because like you said, I can be the mindless eater as well. I actually work from home. So if there's snacks in the pantry or whatever, I'm going to go grab them, while I'm doing whatever work. So I've transitioned over to smoothies, and more I'm trying to eliminate, whatever I can that's maybe high in sugar or something like that, and, sneak in the vegetables. And the more I'm doing that, the more I can actually taste the nuances of that food or other food Whereas on the other end, if I have a super processed salty thing, it's like overwhelming that flavor.
And I think you just have to like listen to that. And then you also have to know what you're getting yourself into. Listen, I am no saint when it comes to eating food or anything. I don't pretend to be that in anything. Like my buddies just came up from Las Vegas to Blaine, Washington, and we blew it out over the weekend. We drank a lot, but I knew what was going to happen. I knew exactly what was going to happen. It wasn't a surprise to me. You know, it was like, okay, I probably didn't feel the greatest on Monday after they left, but I knew that was going to happen. But I allowed myself those times to just, hey, I know what's going to happen. I know I don't normally have like, you know, like a big hamburger or something like that. Not because I think it's bad. It tastes delicious. It's just that it just makes me feel terrible half the time, you know, like, so I think these words of good and bad, don't eat that, don't eat this, they're psychologically damaging to people. Because when you tell somebody they can't do something or they shouldn't have it, they want it more. They want it badly at that point. So we have to destigmatize these things with people.
A good way just to even step back and say, you know, is this something that's going to make me feel good or afterwards, you know, rather than in the moment. Let's go to some generalities, if there are any, about, again, somebody that is just hitting the gym. Now, I'm sure that it depends. Let's say if they're very overweight, you know, I mentioned for me, I'm a runner, and hey, that can be really tough on the joints. So if somebody's, you know, coming in at a certain weight, you probably don't want to put them on the treadmill like that because you're going to do more harm than good. Are there certain exercises that are universal that you would introduce somebody to, again, just get used to some type of a regimen? And then also, you mentioned the number of days. It sounds like about 3 to 4 is what I'm hearing, but what do you recommend out of the gate, you know, how much to work out in a particular week?
I kind of I'll lump it in 2 different categories. One is if you're working with a service provider, a trainer, or one if you're working out by yourself, because those are 2 very different versions of working out completely. They're not even the same thing. If you're working with a fitness professional, you know, especially for me, like I like to have people learn their bodies first. So we often don't use any external resistance in the beginning and say, hey, let's learn to move our body sagittally, more flexion, extension, moving forward, backwards. Let's move our body laterally, moving side to side. And then let's do a transverse plane or rotation-based exercises at your lumbar spine, thoracic spine, because you're not used to doing this. You're just used to walking straight in a line all the time. So let's get you to move your body in different planes of motions and be able to create mobility, stability, and let's provide some neurological changes for that. So for me, I like to add movement into it. And a lot of my colleagues are very similar. You know, we're going to provide functional-based exercises. We're moving, you know, maybe 10, 15 yards up and down an area, whether, you know, we're doing things, you're doing very simple, you know, squats, lunges, doing hip rotations, hip flexion, hip extension. And to the observer, this looks very foolish. It looks like they're not doing anything because people think I'm getting a trainer. They're going to push me really hard. They're going to do all this crazy stuff. That's foolish to do that. You're taking somebody, especially if they're coming from scratch, you basically have an infant in your hands, and you have to give them very small steps to move up to getting into a more complex system of movement for that. So I always recommend 2 to 3 days a week of training with people because you're going to need a lot of recovery in between before you can add more frequency. For the general exerciser, I think exercise-wise, you know, a lot of the general exercisers move towards a treadmill or a bike, or especially a lot of guys, they start bench pressing and stuff from bicep curls, looking in the mirror, the whole thing. You know, I would encourage you to not be in the same stationary position, is to do something that moves. Like you're a runner. That's great. You're running, you're moving. The distances are different. You know, you're changing that to provide exercises where you're actually moving on a regular basis. A lot of people exercise. If you go to any gym, anybody listen to this, do this. This is an observation you could make easily. Go in a gym, just watch everybody, especially, you know, in a very large gym. Most people are not moving through the gym. They're actually standing in one spot. Included, the treadmill is a stationary thing, or the recumbent bike, or an elliptical, whatever it is, or if somebody's lifting weights, or everybody is in their little spot, and they don't move from that spot unless they're just walking over to another space to use. I would encourage you to use the gym, move through the gym. That is a great, the long walkways in gyms, those are great ways to do squats, lunges, some hip work there. Get your body used to moving on a regular basis in a non-stationary way. So that would be my advice on both of those things.
I wonder as well, if you get used to that as part of your routine, then if you have a day where you can't get to the gym, again, removing a barrier, right? Like if it's a nice day out, you could do that on your street if you don't live on a busy street.
Completely. I've done that with so many people. We go to their local park, or could be right outside their house, wherever it may be. Just take advantage of being in places where there's spaces. And you're moving through that space. I really think this is one of the biggest issues with our exercise. Even when people do exercise regularly, it's often in a stationary place. And so they walked to the gym or rode to the gym, and they got there and then they stood still in the same place. It seems very counterintuitive to me. Yeah.
I've actually said that myself before, that it is kind of strange that you drive to a gym to go work out and then you drive to wherever else you're going. And at least for now, my excuse for being in a club is really just for the pool. Cause it's something I don't have on my own and is available. And I maybe could bike to the gym and then swim from there. But I'm, not quite, well, not this time of year. I'm not going to do that, but, point well taken that it is very strange of a practice when you look at it that way, that you're driving to
stand in place, basically, or being on a machine
and
that you're in
your
place that doesn't move anywhere. It's strange.
And it's a boredom thing. Again, like I mentioned for the treadmill, like you're just so painfully aware of how much time you have left. And, at least when you're out and doing something, you've got some scenery that's changing and distracting you, hopefully a little bit. And even full circle, I imagine also as well, that's where the community or the personal trainer part comes into it, where you can make it more of a social gathering than just something that you hate to do and dread every minute of it.
But even if you're like a general exerciser, like you don't have to be beholden to like one machine for like an hour. Like sometimes I tell people, I'm like, why are you on an elliptical for like an hour and a half? Like there's like 7-8 different pieces of cardio that are very different. Like just do like 1 minute on each and keep switching back and forth. Make it different, make it interesting, make it a little exciting. Like it's cross training. But I think it's a microcosm of how people are. They get comfortable with something and they just want to stay on it. Just want to do that one thing that feels good. It's not too bad. I don't want to switch. That's people in general. I'm like, there's lots of different options. And like for me, I think, and my colleagues, we think this is such a simple concept. Just do something different. Get on a different machine. Go for 2 minutes, 2-minute intervals. Hard on this machine for 2 minutes. Recovery on this machine for 1 minute. Hard on, and when I tell people that, they go, "I never thought of that." I'll be like, "It seems so simple, but we're creatures of habit,
And also, I'm probably guilty of this to some extent. You don't want to look like you don't know what you're doing. I mean, there's that stereotype in the gym. So you just gotta suck it up and ask people, whether there's people that work there or somebody that you think has a good workout regimen, and do that. But don't let that be, a detriment. And then again, that becomes your excuse for not going anymore because you don't like the thing you're doing over and over.
Yeah. This isn't high school. I mean, it's it's like, I mean, you're a grown adult, man. Like, just go do your thing,
Well, how about cardio versus weight training, weightlifting? Again, to your point of using the space, one thing that comes to mind for me that I do some, and there are definitely people in the gym, even just walking with kettlebells. Do you typically have folks do like a cardio day and then a weightlifting day, or is it usually a combination of both things for any session?
It depends on how much they train with me. If they're training, like I do have some people who have worked their way up over the time to 5 days a week or 4 days. So then we're doing a split routine. So at that point, we're trying to do 2 days on, 1 day off, 2 days on, or, Monday is, or Tuesday is upper body, with movement, Wednesday is lower body, or Thursday is cardio, Friday is mobility. I really change it up quite a bit, because the biggest mistake is people confuse their bodies. They say, I see this all the time in gyms. It drives me nuts. Is when people will be like on like a treadmill, and then they'll get off and start doing bicep curls. I'm like, what? I'm like, that makes no sense chronologically, and the order of your exercise is critical. People don't understand the order of what you do is incredibly critical to the results that you get. When you do it, the first thing you do will always be the most effective thing that you do versus the last thing that you're doing. There's clear research to back this up for that. So I really talk to people about, hey, listen, if you're training a lot with me, then like tomorrow, I have a cardio day with one of my clients, and he knows that every Thursday is cardio. Every Saturday is heavy upper body resistance training. Every Tuesday is lower body mobility and stuff. Because we want to make sure that our body knows exactly what we're doing that day, and that our body has the understanding of this is what we're working towards. So we separate those things out. If they're working with me once or twice a week, which I don't recommend, but if they absolutely have to do that, then we're going to have to combine it a little bit more. But even then, I'm not mixing cardio and resistance training back and forth. Those are separate sessions within a session.
Okay, that makes sense. And I know I have experience through some trial and error doing crunches and push-ups after a run or something like that. And obviously there is a big difference when you've spent all that energy doing the cardio activity, that you're not getting the same results that you would be if you reserve that first part of the workout for especially if it's, I think, a weight training. So before I get you out of here, maybe even going full circle, one other question I had, you mentioned sports being a big part of your life growing up. And as I'm getting, older and there's the adult leagues and stuff like that, do you have any stance on, should that be part of somebody's fitness routine? Is there a certain age where, for example, I think of like, if you're not doing sprints and then you go on the basketball court, you're just asking to like pull your hamstring or something like that. Do you have sort of any stance on like the adult sports and when maybe it's time to hang it up?
Hang it up? Oh man, this is so good. Greg, I have to tell you, lots of great questions, man. Really good. Bravo to you. I think it's a tricky thing. Like, I'm 41 and I would never enter into an adult league of basketball or flag football unless I started working my way up to those movements initially. I think, everybody laughs at kind of the 50-year-old guy who tries to go play pickup basketball, or 40-year-old guy, and then he just like blows his knee out. I'm like, yeah, he blows his knee out because he's done no training for those movements. You can't just roll into it. I think they're great to do, but I think like, this is my honest stance. Like, I literally try to find things that I'm not going to like blow my ACL out on. Like, I'm going to be in like bowling leagues or something. I'm like golf or something, I'm like, but if I really was like, if right now I was like, yeah, I'm going to get on a pickup basketball team, I would start training for it. I would start doing cutting base movements, drills and stuff. I would work up to it. You can't just roll out there the first day and like expect to go full speed. That's like, you're literally going to hurt yourself. It's like 100%. It's probably going to happen.
That is really what my perspective.
100%.
That's what my perspective is. But man, when you see some of those guys go out there, it's like, are you sure this is the best thing you should be doing?
No, and they're not training. They're not doing anything. Just roll out there. The guys with big guts rolling out there playing, shooting hoops and stuff. I'm like, oh, it's good movement and stuff, but please, like, don't sprint. Like, don't. The soft tissue injury is coming, man.
And then that goes into some of the other concepts we've been talking about, that you're probably going to be pretty sore the next day, that you're not.
Oh my gosh, you're going to be destroyed. You're going to be destroyed. You're like, I used to play basketball all the time. Like, like 20 years ago.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, different now.
Darian, again, I really appreciate it. And before we go here, do you want to go ahead and give folks your contact information, where they can find you on social media, and if there's any like upcoming events that you have that you should let folks know about?
I keep my contact stuff really simple, I should say. It's just darianparker@gmail.com if you want to contact me on email. And then I'm primarily just on LinkedIn. So again, just type in my name. You can find me on LinkedIn. And that's primarily it. The other event-wise, I wouldn't say there's anything event-wise coming up that will be open to the public. I am hosting a podcast retreat in May, but that's just for guests of my show coming to. So, other than that, I'm just living the dream, man. I'm enjoying my life, staying active, and meeting great people, and that's really what it means to me.
Yeah, that sounds great. Well, I appreciate you taking the time with us. We will be in touch.
All right, thank you, Greg.
If you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, or wherever you get podcasts. If you'd like to be notified of future weekly episodes, please hit the subscribe button. If you'd like to help us further, head on over to suburbanfolk.com and sign up for our email list. There's also a donate option where every dollar received helps us make a better show for you. Thank you. Suburban Folk is part of the Pod All the Time podcasting network with 11 other great podcasts. This podcast is for educational purposes only. It is not designed to diagnose or treat. When beginning any exercise program, it should be reviewed and discussed with your medical professional prior to beginning. Information on this podcast is not designed to replace medical treatment.